In this video, we'll cover the order history front end. We'll learn how to pass the access token. So with our order history, the REST API for /API orders is secured on the back end. So now we need to update the Angular app to pass the access token. And we saw this in the previous video where we tried to get a list of orders and we simply got an empty list, or actually there was an error behind the scenes. So we were actually logged in, but our application was not passing our access token to the backend. As a result, the backend denied our request for data because it's secured now, and we have to provide proper access to get into that given backend. All right, so we know what we need to do, right? We need to send the access token. So our client's going to send the access token as an HTTP request header. All right, and we saw this diagram a little earlier. We're passing on this request, the request header body. So in the request header, we're going to add authorization bearer and give the actual value of our token. And then we'll retrieve the value of the access token from our Okta auth service. Now let's kind of look at this as far as the whole diagram. So we saw this sequence diagram before, but notice here near the bottom, we have the section here for sending access token. Our client application, we need to update our client app or our Angular app to actually send that access token when we make a call to the back end. Because right now on the back end, that API is secured. Okay, so Angular interceptor. So Angular provides the support for interceptors. So an interceptor can intercept the HTTP request and responses, and you can use it to perform processing on the HTTP request responses. So here's a little diagram. So I have my Angular code over on the left-hand side, my REST API on the back end. They're communicating left and right. Then we have this HTTP client that we use to handle the communication for us. And then we can add in an interceptor. So the interceptor can take our HTTP request and perform some additional processing on it. And in fact, you can actually have multiple interceptors. So you can have 0 to many interceptors. And so depending on their functionality or whatever, each interceptor will be called inline before it actually makes it out to the REST API. And so you may wonder, how will we use Angular interceptors? Well, we'll use an interceptor to pass the access token in the HTTP request. So here's our client application, our Angular app. We're going to make a call to the Spring Boot backend. Our Angular app makes use of the HTTP client and also the interceptor. So the interceptor will basically take that request and we'll use that to add the access token. So remember, the idea of adding the access token is that we'll set up this request header, authorization bearer, and then we give the actual value of the access token. So here's our development process. So in our first step, we're going to create an interceptor. And then in the second step, we're going to update the app module TS to reference our new interceptor. For creating the interceptor, we'll actually define it as an Angular service. So we can generate this service by making use of the Angular CLI. So ng generate service, services /auth interceptor.